All right. So it's okay because tonight we are talking about something that is turning into something that looks a little bit more like a conspiracy to me. If anybody coming on can hear my voice, that would be awesome to know. I'm going to log in and check the volume. Tonight we're talking about the most ancient manuscript that people use as an authority to change from the traditional text, which has been accepted throughout all of church history, quoted by the early church fathers. And just in modern times, we are going back to a Gnostic text, which is becoming increasingly Gnostic as we keep going. So let me see if I can find my live stream and see if we're making sound. All right, it looks like Sprite. 1 like, 2 live chat, watching. I'm not sure. Because this one says that it's upcoming. And it's not upcoming, it's live. So let me close out of the app real quick. I hope that I didn't set this one to private. I might have some things to figure out before we are actually communicating. Top messages, May 5th at 10 p.m. Let me see about Constantinides claimed that he wrote to boss top. We can't do it. Okay, so we're gonna have to do it on here. Let's see, we're gonna have to go to manage video. 55 views live. Doesn't show the one that I want. Hang on. How does it not show that I'm live? I've been live for 3 minutes. Maybe it's not auto start. It should be auto started. It should be. This makes no sense. Like so. See. Boom. Okay, I've got 3 people watching. That is awesome. I'm not sure what kind of video or audio issues we're going to face tonight. This is a brand new downloaded video, so that should nix the problems that I had with the video skipping back to the beginning that we had last time. That was incredibly increasing. Today I was listening to a little bit more by David W. Daniels about the whole Simonides thing. Apparently, he also was of the standard opinion of Sinaiticus till he found out about the Simonides thing, and he's like, he said he didn't give Simonides a fair chance. Then researching it, he's like, is there anything that I can confirm about this story that would that shows that he was telling the truth? And he said as he kept looking into it, he kept seeing things verified historically, which is something that James White, Mark Ward, these people that throw around words like conspiracy theorist, that just throw them around. I do not mind the label conspiracy theorist. I resent to people throwing it around just to close down conversation, to make people be quiet, to make them feel like they're crazy, to keep other people from listening to them, to ostracize people. I don't like that kind of usage. You know, oh, don't listen to so and so. He's a conspiracy theorist. Well, everybody was a conspiracy theorist back in when was it? 2020? Everyone was. So, you might want to be a little careful with that. Anyways, enough said on that matter. So, what we're going to do tonight is the same thing we did last week. Is we're going to go through the Simonides affair again with fresh insights that I've been listening to from David W. Daniels' playlists, The Big Con, which he has not completed. There is a part 3 which he has not uploaded, which I am sad. It has been years and he has not uploaded it. I was after him at the beginning when, like, recently after he uploaded those. Dave, you've got to upload these videos. Part 3 was especially because he was supposed to show a letter from 2006, no, 2015, I think, where on testing on Codex Sinaiticus, an old document, or whether it was made in the 1800s, like Simonides claimed that he did. So that was canceled. And he said that he had the letter and he was going to show it tomorrow, and he never uploaded the video. And I have thought about it, I would say probably at least every month since then. At least once a month, and sometimes more than once a month. It's just like, I don't know. Anybody knows David Daniels? I've messaged him about it before. He just hasn't posted the video to my knowledge. It's very sad. I'd like to know if there is a reason or if he just hasn't gotten to it or what's up. So, anyways. Hopefully, this it's not a ski. Let's see. I think this. I'm gonna go camera now, and I'm just going to talk. Hopefully, that will cut down on the requirements for the video feed for and hopefully this better. If it looks like there are 4 people watching right now, audio gone. Okay, audio should be there right now. If the audio is back and you can hear me, um, please type something else. I don't know. Incredible issues. We're gonna try to listen to this. Last time it went way too long. Right now I'm down to 3 viewers, which kind of sucks, but that's okay. Um, if you guys want, you can share this video if you think that it is going through clearly enough. If it is not, I'm going to have to keep trying to plug away at this text week by week. We'll see what happens. Good. Thank you, Chip. I appreciate that. Um, we'll have to see. And my StreamYard subscription expires in 6 days. So in 6 days, I won't be able to use this platform to share videos. So we're going to have to complete this tonight. And I am seriously questions. I count. I'll bet you do, Charles. I'll bet you do. Let's see. Oh, well, welcome to the live stream. Thank you for joining us. So I'm going to share that for now. Hang on. Okay, we'll probably do this for now. So, yes. I'm still trying to keep an open mind. The only evidence that I see that is in any way convincing that Sinaiticus is an ancient document are uh, the unique readings. That has me skeptical. That would imply that Simonides, Constantine Simonides, or Simonides, and his uncle Benedict, as his name comes to us, that they had access to manuscripts that read on that agreed with the papyri on exclusive odd readings that they hold, such as there's a couple that David Daniels pointed out in his videos. I didn't have time to write them down because I was kind of, on the fly trying to work and do things while I'm listening to listening to him talk. But one of them, I think it had to do with where Jesus was born or something. I forget what it was exactly. But anyways, it it changed the word slightly, and the place that it was referring to after the word was changed slightly was like 40 miles away from where it actually happened. I'm not sure if that reading in particular is shared by the papyri, but things like that would be more isolated, I guess. Um, for instance, Revelation 6:16 is only found in 2 manuscripts. That was a typo. Irenaeus talks about that. And of course, he said if you found any manuscripts that said 616 instead of 666, which also may have been altered to make Nero the Antichrist, I don't know. That is a possibility, but Irenaeus was like, no, it's a typo. I know the guy that did that. He's a good Christian. He made a mistake. He wishes that he hadn't made the oversight or whatever. But, if you find something like that, return for a full refund. I'm hoping that I can be heard now. It is 10:31. Dolly said at 10:30, "You are gone again." I'm gonna be keeping my video down because I don't think my stream can hold it, and, I'm sorry for the boring graphic. It's just a little, head and shoulders like usual, but I am still working. I don't know if I can find. Yeah, let me kill the screen sharing of the video for now, and let me see if I can add a logo. That might be more easy. Let's see now. I don't want this to run as long. I want this to be a lot shorter. This is basically going to be a take 2 on reviewing the Simonides affair from the Chris Pinto documentary, going back in time to when he actually made that, and reacting, because there is a lot in there that was just kind of breezed over. And I listened to the debate um, between James White and Chris Pinto. James White's one of his he had a couple of good points. Like I said, the unique readings, I'm having a hard time figuring that one out right now. Um, there are two possibilities in my mind. Either first, Uncle Benedict had many of these manuscripts, which he actually had like exclusive access to some of them himself at one point, because one of the monks, I believe he was on his deathbed, told him where he could find a cache of ancient manuscripts at the time. And uh, um, St. Catherine's was apparently present, and they also didn't have an ancient catalog, according to Simonides. I can't believe it. Why can't I find my logo? Why don't I have my logo on my own? Ridiculous. Maybe my G drive is connected. I can hear the peepers outside. That is a nice sound. It is nice to be back in. Our winter here in New York was very, very mild. So we had peepers early. Let me actually mention something where you guys can show Gail a little bit of love. Gail Riplinger, the author of New Age Bible Versions, Hazardous Materials, and In Awe of Thy Word, and several other books. Those ones are the main three, though, each of them being, at this point, over 700 pages. In Awe and Hazmat. Go to 1,200 pages. Oh, I'm trying to figure out how it would also be a sellable audiobook. Oh, it might end up being a private stream for members only. I'm not sure how it's going to have to work out, but we'll have to see. We'll have to see. So in the description right now, there is, I'm talking while I'm looking for my logo. In the description, there is a link to a thank box card. What thank box is, they will send a card to a person, a specified email address, at your specified time. And you can share the link with people that want to share a personal message. And those people can type a personal message. They can share a GIF. They can share a photograph. They can share a short video. They can make a financial donation to the person receiving the video. There is a lot of potential with Thankbox. Right now, I believe our minimum donation our maximum, I think 4 messages on there now. So if you guys want to message to get like to her in return, see her response and reaction, and are faithful at responding to these cards via email to show her appreciation for what we send her. We've been able to raise her some money for her projects and things. I don't know how much I can say at this point. Some of you have been having a lot of suspicions as to what her upcoming project is. I've only hinted about it. I have not gone into any kind of details. She told me not to. Let me see. So I don't know how much she wants me to say, or if she doesn't want me to say anything at all. Let's see. Flat, or I guess this one. That should be fine. Download. Okay. What I will say. Have you checked applications.com recently? Have you gone over there and looked at it? It, in my opinion, has improved. It looks much, 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 much better. And I will say that as they receive funds, they are going to expand on this. I'm not sure how much it actually cost them to get their Okay, so I added the logo to the top corner of the screen. I don't know how to change my image yet. Overlay, countdown. I don't know. Whatevs. No, YouTube doesn't deem me worthy of a logo. Where? I guess the link is in the description for the card, if that's what you're talking about. I don't know. And also, if you guys want to check out Chris Pinto's other documentaries, cardcarryingchristians.com/untold Bible story. You guys can check them all out there for free. And there's also links to where you can purchase them. So let me see if I can get. And I've had some inspiration in the last few days from my favorite YouTube photographer, Peter McKinnon. Not always the cleanest language, don't always appreciate his hair length. Love his photographs, though. Love his energy. Love all that stuff. So he's being a good example to me in those ways. You mentioned an application site, but you were breaking up. An application site. Well, if you've checked out, let's see, the only websites I've mentioned have been avpublications.com, which has gotten revamped and is like incredible now, and cardcarryingchristians.com / Untold Bible Story, and the Thankbox link, which is also down in the description. Let me see about getting this Simonides affair going, though, just so we don't bore everyone to absolute tier. I mean, you guys are already bored to tears, but I don't want to bore you to absolute tears. AV Publications. Yes, that is correct. AV as an authorized version publications.com. That's Gail Riplinger's website, her store. She has a lot of stuff on there now. And it's growing. They're expanding it. They've got goals. They have a mission. We'll check out the updated site. It has been horrible for ages. You are correct. Like I said, long, long, long past due for how it is now. Just a couple months ago, it was like it was made in the 90s. It was horrible. And it took forever to load. URLs were like a yard long. All right, so let me see if I can get this shared on the screen. Window, and we're going to share the Tares Among the Wheat window. Share. Okay. Here we go. And I'm going to, since it didn't seem to want to give you guys audio, which really, really sucked, I'm going to turn my Bluetooth speaker on again. And I also found out last time, hooray, hooray, that where I had the speaker last time, it was very quiet because, of course, this is the dynamic. Still sharing video. Pretty much like a pod. Now we might have to go with more of a podcast kind of format because video just does not love me. Not with our internet connection, not with this little bitty laptop streaming wirelessly. It just doesn't like it at all. So it's going to have to be this more podcasty kind of format for now. We'll see. I don't know if my audio is coming across right now. It may not be. I'm not sure. Okay. Well, we're a half hour into it. Let's get rolling. On the Simonides affair. By the way, just I'm not sure where Chris Pinto's mind is right now on the Simonides affair, but as far as I'm aware, as of his debate with James White, he believes that it is a possibility that Simonides wrote Sinaiticus. It is a possibility, he stated. He does not think that it is proven one way or the other, and he thinks that the debate was ended too quickly between Simonides and Tischendorf to determine whether or not it actually was bad. I also think that Chris Pinto and James White over it was ended too quickly because of the debate format. So I guess we're continuing that debate in our own way. I'm continuing and on this YouTube channel. So yeah, I've got more links in the description. The videos by Chris Pinto video well. David Daniels' 2 books are linked there. Who Faked Sinaiticus, or Who Faked the World's Oldest Bible, and Bible a Fake. I am increasingly of the opinion that it was written with a lot of research into the Alexandrian text type done by Simonides, or Simonides apostrophe, great uncle Benedict, with Constantine as the stenographer or the scribe. Apparently, he had an uncanny ability for making copies fast. James White, one of the big things that he holds back on as far as Simonides The possibility of Simonides even making this manuscript would have had to have been completed too quickly. Able to have copies of things ready very quickly. It is possible he may have had a certain style that he worked with. I'm not sure. But however he did it, he seemed to be able to do it with legendary speed. So, he may have been a candidate for the Jesuits, right? Because they're bright young men. Anyhow, and that may come up a little bit tonight because Uncle Benedict apparently was not pro Textus Receptus. He was not pro Byzantine text, which makes things make a little bit more sense because why would a Eastern Orthodox priest make an Alexandrian type Bible? Why would he do that? James White. Why would he do that? He's like, that makes no sense. But then James White doesn't necessarily understand the dynamics of the Eastern Orthodox Church in that time. David Daniels has been on. And he has been tearing history up. He has been going nuts. He likes to refer to himself as he's being an absolute wonk. Just chasing down every rebel. He's really got a knack for it. And he's dug up some stuff, guys. Let me tell you, he's dug up some stuff. You guys can check out his playlists. Those are linked in the description below. I highly recommend that you watch them, listen to them. They're relatively short videos, nothing at all like the ones I'm making here. And yeah, enjoy. I hope this runs smoother than last week. Last week was an absolute mess. Yeah. Hopefully it isn't skipping in and out like it is right now. We'll see what happens. Y'all have
After Tischendorf revealed his Codex Sinaiticus, he was hailed as a great scholar and greeted with laudation.
Okay, so one thing that I'm not going to do is I'm not going to pause it when the video blanks out. I don't think. If you guys tell me that the audio goes as well when the video blanks out, please let me know. I can fix it. And I can pause it or whatever needs to be done when that happens. Because right now I am kind of flying, drinking and, he's getting the 3 Gs for his discovery, girl's golden glory or whatever. Audio is wank too, then the narrator, when the narrator is talking. That makes no sense. Wanky. When the narrator is talking. I don't know. This is the best I can do. We'll see what happens. Maybe I could just play it and forget the video right now. Okay, so I just asked if anybody can hear me right now. Do not respond if you're listening to it only this time. If you didn't hear it the first time. I don't know. I hate these audio issues. But You know what we're going to do? We are going to go. Let me see. Yes, I'm having issues. I would love to click you, but I know it's not going to help because it's just going to load another page and interrupt the stream again. And blah, blah, blah. Same old problem. Okay, so what we might do, if you guys want to see the video for yourself, you guys can do that. You can watch it at some other point in time. At our, if you want to, I'm going to hope that the audio stream is better. I have my fingers crossed. This one to be clear. So we'll just play the audio of the video we can do. This may just have to be our streaming format moving forward because I want this stuff to be clear. If we can't have video, that is okay. If we can have audio, maybe bring in some visuals or something like that, that is okay. But I want this stuff to be clear. If I need to, I can take a screen capture from the video. Desperate times, desperate measures. But at this point, with our technology and the availability of different things, it's just this is what we can do. If you guys want to help us grow this channel, the best way to do it is to share the video if you enjoy it. If you don't enjoy the video, do not feel burdened to share it. Share it if you like it. Thank you. And also, if you want to help us with the our tech issues, list buymeacoffee.com/Joseph Armstrong. You guys can support us there monthly as well for $5 a month or $20 a month. That's the denominations for now. However you want to do that. And depending on how we handle the audiobook thing, that may end up being how you guys can see the audiobooks for free. It may be a members only thing. I don't know. I would love for it all to be completely public. What may have to happen is I may have to read it on YouTube, add my comments, and then isolate the actual pieces of the book being read and turn that into an audiobook. I'm not sure. I do not have an audiobook voice, but apparently I'm the only one that's doing this. I haven't had anybody step forward out of the 3 people that watch me at night saying that they will read it. Haven't had any willing to read New Age Bible versions for free, but then you can't really sell it, and it's just, and then they would want money, and then it's like, how do we do that? And I don't know. Whatever. All right. Let's get going on this.
Work was published. It was challenged by a prominent expert in paleography. Constantine cites unbelievably the forgotten link in the history of Codex Sinaiticus. And it's because he waged an open and a public debate against Tischendorf for about 4 years, arguing that Codex Sinaiticus was not an ancient manuscript. The more studies he was a very important figure at that time. Alexander von Humanides was an enigma. Others believed his understanding of languages. And said of him, Dr. Simonides is a Greek by birth, and speaks and writes the classic language of his forefathers with fluency, purity, and elegance.
Thank you, Spray Arm. I always think that I sound like I'm stuffed up. Maybe I don't breathe through my nose like I should. I don't know. Anyways, let's keep going. So he writes the language of his forefathers elegantly.
From his uncle, Simonides thoroughly acquired the art of paleography. You surpass him either in the practice of it or in the diagnosis of manuscripts.
Did that come through clear? Is this working out for you guys? All I can really see is this gray band that pumps out around my little icon that represents moi. That's all that really tells me if I'm being heard or not. And when I see that sticking, it's just discouraging and makes me second guess as to whether or not it's through. Please let me know if things are getting messed up. So we'll continue. He has an uncanny ability of diagnosing manuscripts.
Simonides had quite a reputation in the one hand respected paleographer, but on the other hand, he had kind of a cloak and dagger history and was looked upon as sort of a Greek Indiana Jones, involved not only with ancient manuscripts, but also fighting battles as a Greek patriot against the Ottoman Turkish Empire, which is an important part of understanding who he was.
Come, my brothers, we shall avenge the blood of our fathers on this Turkish invader. Let us be strong in our weakness, and with God's help we shall prevail.
One of the newspapers of the time reported that the escapades of Mr. Simonides extend over nearly 20 years. 5 Arabs on the head and face from a third. In Macedonia, his native country, he succeeded in getting up a little insurrection among his countrymen, who joined him in the leadership of the patriot bands. He fell on a detachment of Turkish soldiers, drove them into a river, and destroyed it.
James White also has an issue. He has just kind of accepting everything is just, I don't know. Not quite sure what his problem is, but he did not like Tischendorf being portrayed as a buffoon, and he did not like Constantine Simonides being portrayed as a dashing young man who just had a, well, he was. What's the problem? I don't remember when Tischendorf drove these people into a river and took care of 150 or whatever like this. I don't remember Tischendorf doing that. He may have run off and the open beeline for St. Catherine's and found the amazing manuscript that everybody was looking for to back up Vaticanus, and then been able to examine Vaticanus, which the Roman Catholic Church had under lock and key. That just seems like a really interesting situation. Anyways, if that's how I understand it, that's how I understand the story. If it's incorrect, please tell me. I don't like being wrong. I like to know. But the thing is that Chris Daniels were to debate the subject without the you just believe in Jesuit conspiracies from James White constantly, and they had a debate about the history of the manuscript, which is in question. Yes, it's King James only crazy people, loony nuts, and people that are completely status quo. Textual criticism is how it should be, has been for a long time. You know, all these people like this, they're two main guys against the crazy King James people. Well, you know what? Sometimes things that are incorrect about our past, it's crazy people sometimes that dig those things up and are like, well, not necessarily the crazy people, but the people that think that are crazy. They go dig things up, they ask questions, they're like, hey, what about this, 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 and this? And then the scholars are like, that's not how history is done. You gotta listen to everybody. And if somebody is right, tell them they're right. If they're wrong, tell them they're wrong. I don't know. I don't know what it is. It's like trying to it's like you're talking to like a kindergartner or something. Just, play nice. You need to listen. Stuff like that. You gotta share. These people should know these things. Because I don't even know why I'm repeating these. But really, I would love to see a sit-down debate where the topic is limited to is Codex Sinaiticus an 18th century manuscript, and did Constantine Simonides write it? Chris and David would be it's a possibility, or yes, absolutely. And James White and um, what's that guy's name? It's an ancient manuscript, and there were different people that wrote it, and how do you explain this and this and that? And you guys are nuts. And just let them have at each other. Give them each, a year or something like that to get all their material together. Amazon and DVD and YouTube. That would be awesome. Even David Daniels stuff is, I don't know. I don't know how they would go against that kind of stuff where David is just digging up all these things. It just keeps getting crazier and crazier. Anyways, let's keep going.
All the way back to the fall of Constantinople in 1453, when the Turks invaded the ancient capital of the Greek Orthodox. In the 19th century, the Greeks remembered Constantine Constantinople as if it had just happened, was apparently involved in with the Turks. And controversies against the Latinizers. And
Hey, sorry about that, guys. Apparently my internet dropped or something. Not sure why, but it did. Can you hear me now? Hello? Okay, well, I'm assuming that at least the recording can hear me, so... Alright. Like I said, you guys can watch the full documentary on YouTube for the time being. I always feel weird saying that word, that phrase. The time being. I'm just gonna go do this for the time being. It's like, oh, does the time being appreciate it? The time being. Sounds like one of those old, monster movies. Anyways, here we go.
his work before kings, nobles, foreign ministers, diplomats. He'd sold a number of manuscripts to the British Museum and other prominent institutions in Europe. So he was involved in the highest levels of the academic world at that time. Simonides owned a collection of more than 5,000 ancient manuscripts that he had partly inherited at libraries and universities. Their content often sparked intense debate. Simonides' debates usually centered around the understanding of ancient languages, and he generally believed that his own knowledge was superior to those around him.
Now, one of the things with Simonides and his family was that his great uncle, Benedict was, I believe, his mother's uncle. He was like he was a not just a professor. His life was dedicated to this manuscript stuff. David Daniels talks a lot about it in his what's the playlist called that he has? I was just listening to it earlier. Check publications. Playlists. Okay, so I listened to the big one, that Sinaiticus timeline playlist. Now that is an interesting one. I don't know if I shared that actually in the description. I don't remember. Check that one out, though. The Sinaiticus timeline playlist. The first few videos of that talking about Dear Uncle Benedict, and I'm looking forward to listening to the next 17 videos in that timeline playlist. He was apparently a great scholar, apparently also sort of liberal, sort of a lot liberal. He was very much influenced against the Byzantine text, which is the standard for your Eastern Orthodoxes. He was an unorthodox Greek Orthodox, which is kind of funny. But he apparently highly favored the Alexandrian type text, and it may not have just been a printing press he was after from the Tsar. He may have also wanted to present that text type to the Tsar. Apparently, he was very heavily influenced by the Renaissance movement and rationalism and all that kind of stuff. So, in comes Simonides. And apparently, he's very good at what he does.
Though he did not have a reputation for arrogance. But while he was
He did
in
not have
Germany,
one.
he got into a vicious conflict with the scholars at the University of Leipzig. And it was there in 1855 that he made enemies with von Tischendorf. So now, years later, when he comes forward and questions Codex Sinaiticus, he does so as Tischendorf's old nemesis. Simonides claim that Codex Sinaiticus was no and two other Greeks in 1840.
That's Tischendorf.
The story of Simonides began to be published in the London newspapers.
Simonides!
Okay, let me say something else. You can look at a manuscript all day long, look at how it was written, all this stuff. David Daniels talks about this a lot in his The Big Con of Paleography videos. Paleography, you seem to be able to look at a manuscript, look at how it was written, look at the style, and look at if a letter is usually given before or after a different letter. Oh, they did that in Egypt, or they did it someplace else, or whatever. Oh, it must have been written there. Well, if that little nuance was known by whatever person made the manuscript, they could have made it anywhere, and it would have looked like it came from there. Forgers do that kind of stuff all the time. Sorry, had to blow my nose. Okay. I highly recommend that you guys check out those two videos about the con of paleography, because paleography, if that is used as the sole determination of the, especially the New Testament, that is an absolute fart, because you can't tell what the age of a manuscript is just by looking at it. You got to know where it came from. You got to know source documents. You got to have chemical testing, all this other kind of stuff. Honk. Yeah, that's when I blow my nose. That's what it sounds like. Anyways. So, please, 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 please check those playlists out by David Daniels. You will not regret it. If you ever wondered about the Voynich manuscript, or Check those out too. Or if you've ever wondered about how textual criticism has completely dropped the ball when it comes to their paleography. 2427 is a great example. It was found in a closet, or not a closet. It was found in an attic, Athens, and given a Category 1 rating by Kurt and Barbara Allen. And they gave that to very, very valuable manuscripts. Apparently, it was supposed to have been from the 13th century or something, but it backed up Codex. And they were like, oh, wow, you know, this is amazing. It's a great confirmation. It's to be given all the honor that it can be given. It must be considered constantly because it backs up the Vatican manuscript so much. And maybe we have forgotten and don't realize how important the Vatican text is to the whole debate. Things from to oh wow, we should totally consider B. No wait, we need B. O is the we need. All we need is to confirm B. And these are Protestant scholars, apparently Westcott and Hort. All of the preeminence goes to B because it's so valuable and so ancient, which is the pamphlet that changed the world by Hug. Definitely please check out David Daniels' playlists, The Big Con, and the Sinaiticus timeline. They are on chickpublications.com. On YouTube, you guys can type in Chick Publications, and it's the first thing to come up. Check it out on their playlists tab. The Voynich manuscript was an interesting one. The Voynich 2427 and the Vinland map are all the subject of the Big Con Part 1, but it sets you up and it helps you know how you should look at a manuscript and how to know or just check it out. It's invaluable. So yeah, we're going to get back into this.
To say, Tischendorf was furious. Followed would be a public debate that would continue in a variety of London newspapers for the next 2 years. In July of 1861, a publication, Literary Gazette, reported that we understand that in literary circles, a rumor prevails that the manuscript now publishing by the Russian under Mr. Tischendorf, purporting to be a manuscript Bible of the 4th century, is not an ancient manuscript, but is an entirely modern throughout Europe. Should the rumor prove to be correct, as we believe it will, the disclosures that will follow must be of the greatest interest to our.
So, there was a time David Daniels talks about this a little bit in his playlist on there was a lot going on by organizations, the brother. It's just a very interesting time politically, let's say. Apparently, Simonides' father was one of these Masons. Not saying that he was a good mover and shaker, not saying he was anything, 33rd degree where everything flips upside down and things get scary. Not saying that, but it may be something worth bearing in mind. Um, it made its way to the Russian government anyways. So, may it not have been that good old Uncle Benedict used Constantine Simonides as the stenographer or copyist or whatever, and made the manuscript on purpose for Tischendorf to find. Tischendorf finds it. Constantine Simonides was like, "What? No, I made that." And without his uncle's permission or blessing or whatever, he may have even been dead at this point. I don't know if he was dead or not. It just kind of erupted spontaneously. And then all of the publications in London, all of the people that have been planted in universities and in, seats of government and authors and scholars and all these people that were trained to go off like little bots in agreement with each other. Oh, Simonides is crazy. He's a nut. Blah 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 blah. Larger reach and bigger implications than we think. I don't know. I'm just thinking. I'm just theorizing. Not prepared to defend all of that. Just trying to put pieces of the puzzle together. If you've got a better way that the pieces of the puzzle fit together, be my guest. But please just don't sit there and say that there's no puzzle to be put together. That's just me. Okay.
In his letters, Simonides says that the controversy began over Codex Sinaiticus when he first saw the manuscript in Liverpool in 1860. And then it was the following year that the newspapers got hold of the story. So this story first appears in 1861, but Simonides did not publish his side of the story until 1862. And the only reason he did so is because he was drawn in to the conflict by two of the prominent scholars at that time. The two scholars in question were Samuel P. Tregelles and Fenton John Anthony Hort. Tregelles and Hort believed Sinaiticus to be real and took sides against Simonides almost immediately. Tregelles wrote that the story of Simonides was as false and absurd as possible. In response, Simonides in 62, where he said, "When about 2 years ago I saw the first facsimiles of Tischendorf, which were put into my hand at Liverpool by Mr. Newton, a friend of Dr. Tregelles, I at once recognized my own work, as I immediately told him." In the book, Codex Sinaiticus and the Simonides Affair, author J.K. Elliott confirms that Simonides spoke of his authorship to a man named J.E. Hodgkin in 1860, and in a letter to Sir Thomas Phillips on August 2nd, 1861.
Now, another thing I had against the documentary was you're quoting J.K. Elliott. J.K. Elliott thought that Simonides was a dishonest, he was like, it's not so amazing the claims, it's more interesting and amazing that Simonides was given any kind of credibility at all, is what he basically quotes Elliott several times as saying, because James White loves to just kind of, pull in on this one quote kind of thing. And it's like, well, James, really, if like at least so far, Simonides told somebody else something else. Hey Nick, how's it going? That's not. I mean, really, just because J.K. Elliott thought that Constantine Simonides was dishonest doesn't mean that you can't quote him when it comes to history. I don't know. But yeah, just about everybody at the time was like, oh no, Simonides, he's a liar and blah, blah, blah. The thing is that at that time, you couldn't check his story out with history because it hadn't become history yet. It was still being lived. There was no Google search, there was no Google Earth, there was no, encyclopedias of this and that, and there was no magazine articles that you could just get at the press of a button like you can now with Google Books and all this other stuff. And let me just say thank you to you guys that are watching right now. 5 people have been watching for over an hour. That shows that you guys are enjoying this channel. I thank you for being here. It's encouraging. It's nice to see. And I appreciate that you guys are into stuff I am. We're going. Yes. This is something for you. This is all for you guys. This is for you guys that are listening. If there was nobody interested, nobody listening, there would be no point. Even one person listening, like Spray Arm, him and Nick have been my constant companions till 2 or 3 in the morning a few times here. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So anyways, you couldn't check this history like David Daniels has been doing. He's been like, I wonder if I could confirm if Uncle Benedict actually lived, so long, and for 30 was, they closed it down and he left and he went someplace else. I wonder if you can do this and this and this and this and this. But cutting out and a little like the internet is low. Oh yes, the internet is low. You are correct. Thanks, Charles. Let's see. Oh. And David Daniels is doing it. He's verifying Simonides' story. At that point in time, everybody's like, he's a liar. He's making all this stuff. Let's drive him back into the jungle he came from. And then he's like, I'm sorry, you guys don't want to listen, but whatever. I've told you the truth. My conscience is clear. Sayonara. Or whatever they say in Greek. Maybe that is Greek. I'm not sure. But now it's being confirmed. His story is coming back. People are looking at it. And people are looking at it intently because, yes, King James onlyists, like myself, are going to have a vested interest in Sinaiticus being a forgery. Who is not interested in Codex Sinaiticus being an 18th century document? The people that love it so much. The people in the British Museum. The people who are making their living talking about it at debates with people that they disagree with. People that don't want to look like absolute morons to their peers. People that don't really have an interest in the truth of the matter. If David Daniels and Chris Pinto are completely wrong about the King James Bible and the text and everything else like that, thinking about it, where would be the people that are going to dig into this? And if it is a forgery, they're going to find out. If it is an 18th century manuscript, these guys are going to find out. People with the tools, people with the drive, people with the motivation, everything like this. they're going to dig up information that you can at least look at, research that you can piggyback off of and be like, well, no, because this, and that. It should be given a fair hearing, because if it is a forgery, you're never going to know if you listen to the people that don't want it to be an 18th century document. If they're trying to figure out whether it is or not, especially if it doesn't really affect their arguments anyways, because King James Bible people have been arguing against Codex Sinaiticus and Codex Vaticanus for years and years and years with not even a sniff of a clue about the Simonides debate. But now it's being brought up again. And if it is a forgery, the first place that you're going to find out about it are the people that would really be interested and would really love for it to be one. At the very least, like I said, they're going to dig up some interesting facts. And if it can be proven, they will prove it. Otherwise, you'll never know if you stick with the people that are happy with the status quo. Here we go.
Simonides claimed that the manuscript had not been created with any intention to deceive, but was intended by himself and his uncle as a gift to Tsar Nicholas I of Russia. To prove his claims, Simonides challenged Tischendorf to a public debate. Yet Tischendorf refused to take part. About this, Simonides wrote of the Codex Sinaiticus that in May in London, armed with a portion at least of his great codex. I have waited in England, hoping, but May has come and gone, and the discoverer has not appeared, or else forever hold his peace. Yet despite the evasiveness of Tischendorf, most of the newspapers in England defended him and denounced Simonides as a fraud. The attacks were almost fanatical and
Interesting. Fanatical. Please, if you guys read anything, read Jacopo Leone. It is Johnny Carucci is behind that. He's got some very interesting stuff himself. He's a flat earther, which I don't agree with at this point. Don't want to get into that tonight. You know, my mind's still wide open. Who knows if it is or not. But right now, the preponderance of the evidence from that. But like I said, anyway, the book talks about the fanaticism of the Jesuit order. Yeah. Matter to you. Whatever. Just you remember everything. It's scary. Read the book, listen to it if you can. That's another book that I would love to read on this channel. And like I said, still trying to figure that out. We will see. I really, 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 really want to get New Age Bible versions done this year. But the thing is with everything else that I have to do, work, kids, the channel, the website, just, bouncing back and forth, I can get myself to get to. I procrastinate so much on it because it is such a pain. It's almost been probably a month by now. I have the audio for chapter 3. It's on our Gumroad account. It's there, but I haven't made the YouTube sample yet because I've got to block time for it or something. I don't know, but it's got to get up there too. But what I'd like to do is I would just like to read it on YouTube. Make the audiobook out of that. I don't know if I'd be able to live stream it or not. Maybe I'd have to record it and then play it on here like I am Chris Pinto's documentary and then just kind of go with it that way. I'm not sure. It'll have to be figured out. But yeah, definitely check out Jacopo Leone's book. It's like, it's intriguing. The problem with the scholars is they read a lot. They read a lot of stuff. They read a lot of, and it's okay to do that. There are authorities for a reason. They know stuff for a reason. They've done a lot of study. I totally get that. I'm not totally against the whole thing. I feature a lot of experts in a lot of different fields on our website, Card Carrying Christians. But the thing is that the expert, the engineer, the person who was there in the steeple last that rang the bell, and the bell was fine. I engineered that, the steeple and the mechanism holds the bell and rings the bell and everything else like this. And you can't tell me that the bell fell out of the bell tower. You can't tell me that. Then the village idiot comes along and says, hey, the bell fell out of the bell tower. Well, it's a completely different story when the village idiot says that. And everybody's like, ha ha ha, we have experts. Nonsense. Go back to whatever you were doing before that. There's a whole difference between that scenario and the scenario where the village idiot comes up and says, the bell fell out of the bell tower, and he's dragging the bell behind him. He's still the village idiot. But he's a right village idiot. And the experts are wrong. Interesting. Anybody who's read The Creature from Jekyll Island knows the story that I'm talking about from that. It's not much of a story, but it's more of a, it's a word picture that's drawn in the beginning of it there. Anyhow, here we go. Often unreasonable, fanatical and unreasonable argument. He had no relationship with Rome. There is no conspiracy. Conspiracy theorists. Creepy music.
During this same era, Protestant historian J.A. Wiley wrote about the Jesuits' influence in English media.
Lies.
In his book on the Jesuits' morals, maxims, and plots, he said that there are two institutions in especial to which the Jesuits will lay siege. These are the press and the pulpit. The press of Great Britain is already manipulated by them, to an extent of which the public but little dream.
Oh, he just wrote that. That's just his opinion. Well, James, you've debated a couple of Jesuits. Big deal. Big deal. You talked to J.K. Wiley, or whatever his name was. W.B. Wiley. I don't remember. Wiley was his last name. Talk to him about it. Read his book. You know, oh, well, he can't prove that. He's just a rotten conspiracy theorist like you. Oh, okay. Got it. Have you read his book, though? Did you see the documentation that he gave for these things? The public but little dream of these things. And James, I'm sorry, you may have taken part in a billion debates. You're still part of the public. And neither you nor I can dream of the extent to which the media is controlled. Johnny Cerruti has done a lot of research into that. He's done a lot of research into a lot of different things. I do not agree with him on everything, but he does, I think, gets a few things right. The un-Jesus-like Society of Jesus. Continuing.
The whole English press of the world is supervised, and the word is passed round how writers, speakers, and causes are to be handled, and cause or condemnation dealt out just as it may accord with the interests and wishes of Rome.
Well, that's interesting. And it's not the Pope at the head of it, remember, guys. The Pope is a puppet. Like the one Jesuit that, I think he was helping to train David Daniels at the one point. He mentions it in his book, Why They Changed the Bible. The priest told David, he's like, yeah, the Pope is our puppet. We tell him what to say, he says it. That's how it works. Was he blowing hot air? Was he a conspiracy theorist too? How does this work? Well, I'll tell you how it doesn't work. It doesn't work if you just sit back and say, there's no Catholic conspiracy. Really? It sounds kind of lazy.
Yet Simonides was not without his supporters. Another paper, called The Literary Churchman, questioned the antiquity of Codex Sinaiticus and argued that Simonides should be heard. They said, "For ourselves, we must profess entire impartiality. Though we were quite ready from the first to admit the importance of the discovery of Tischendorf, we are not prepared at this moment to say with Dr. Trigellus that the statements of Simonides are as false and absurd as possible. Tischendorf applies these terms, false and absurd, just now to Trigellus himself." The reason Tischendorf attacked Trigellus was because he disagreed with him about the writing of Codex Sinaiticus. Trigellus said, "On one point, I believe that I differ materially from Tischendorf as to the writing of the manuscript. He thinks that he sees traces of various hands having been employed in such a way that a change of writer must have frequently taken place. I believe that the difference is to be attributed to the scribe having more or less ink in his style, the ink being more or less thick, and the surface of the vellum slightly varying."
So, if you could seriously look at that manuscript and be like, oh, wow, look at that. The writer changed at the end of every couple sentences. I don't know how that would have to be possible. First, you'd have to be an absolute moron to be like, oh, wow, look at this. They changed scribes, and boy, these 7 or 8 scribes that are doing this must have had really bad wrists or something. They're just tiring out. Something like that. Or wow, you've never looked at a manuscript before, have you? People run out of ink. People dip their ink back in the ink, their quill back in the ink well, and they move on. Wow, you've never looked at a manuscript before, have you? You'd have to be an absolute idiot, I think, to make a mistake like that. Apparently, Tregellus, not Tischendorf, Tregellus, another manuscript scholar, disagreed on the amount of writers and such. What the official tally is, I think it's supposed to have been like 3 different authors or something. I forget. At least there was 3 correctors. But yeah, so much for the idea that, you know, there has to be different authors and such. There could have just been one author then. I don't see why there would have had to have been multiple ones. I don't know. And I know that even having a different pen sometimes will affect my handwriting. If the ballpoint is bigger or smaller, that will affect the writing. A smaller one drags more on the paper, and a bigger one like a 0.7 millimeter is just like, whoo, it just slips away from you. And I could really do, some brush calligraphy with something like this. I don't really do calligraphy, but it really slides, I'll tell you that.
In other words, the scribe did inkwell.
Oh, wait, that's a 1 millimeter.
There's a lot of ink on it.
I forget.
But sooner or later, the ink runs
I like
thin.
0.7's the best, if I remember.
In places where the ink ran thin, Tischendorf believed that this signified a change of writers and hence the passage of time. Tregellus, on the other hand, believed that it was the same scribe. It's just that he sometimes ran low on ink. That was the difference. But when you factor in that Tischendorf spreads his scribes and correctors from the 4th century all the way to the 7th century, a span of some 300 years, you're left wondering just how precise the scientific methods were that they employed. Also consider that similar contentions are made about ancient bones that are dug up out of the ground, where the scientists tell us that these are millions of years old and so forth. Do they really have the ability to date bones that way? And did Tischendorf really have the ability to date ancient manuscripts? After the initial attacks against him began, Simonides asserted that these scholars in reality knew little or nothing about ancient manuscripts. In response to one of his critics, he wrote, "Neither you nor Tischendorf possess the true knowledge of paleographical science. You have only to say at random, this is genuine and this is spurious.
That's
but
interesting.
You do not know the reason." This comment might be brushed aside, but often repeated. Simonides exceeded his contemporaries in the expert manuscript evidence. James Farrow's book, by years.
Interesting.
And in the science of paleography had neither his knowledge.
Okay. Come on. All right. By 5 years, wow. That's Tischendorf was only that much older than him. Boy, the actors that Chris Pinto hired were terrible then. 30s, and Tischendorf looks like he's like 50, 60, something like that. Anyways.
Testimony was chiefly regarded was Henry Bradshaw, keeper of manuscripts at the Cambridge University Library. Bradshaw sided with Tischendorf, and once this was known, he was confronted in person by Simonides. In a letter describing the encounter, Bradshaw wrote, Dr. Simonides, to convince me and my friends that it was quite possible for him to have written the volume in question. He had invited some of us to Christ College to discuss matters fairly. He could speak and understand English pretty well, but his friend was with him to interpret and explain. They really seemed to believe that all people in the West were of Latin. But the great question...
So Bradshaw writing that. I think last time I was like, oh, they were as ignorant as whatever. So, but that was Bradshaw. He talked to them is like, oh, well, you think that we're as ignorant of Greek as you are of Latin, basically. Anyways.
How do you satisfy yourselves? He first replied that it was really difficult to define, that it seemed to be more a kind of instinct than anything else. Dr. Simonides and his friend readily caught at this as too much like vague assertion, and they naturally ridiculed any such idea. But I further said that I had lived for 6 years past in the constant, almost daily habit of examining manuscripts of Codex Sinaiticus. When Simonides objected, Bradshaw said, I told him as politely as I could that I was not to be convinced against the evidence. So Bradshaw essentially admitted that there was no real science.
Okay, got it. And he may have been an expert, and he may have looked at a whole bunch of manuscripts like that, but does that mean he was right? I don't know. I don't think my thing is sunk yet. Let me check. Because if I have this in my notes... See, it would have to be in VVC notes. No. Ah, well. I will highly recommend that you guys watch The Big Con of Paleography Part 1. Chain of Custody. Who had this manuscript before you? Who had it before him? Where did it come from? What was it copied from? Not just that, and it's old because it looks old. It feels old to me too. That's good enough for me. You can't tell me nothing. I can trust because I looked at it and my looker is a lot more accurate than you. Okay. Well, immediately, as James just keeps going on and on about in the debate with Chris Pinto, immediately we are dealing with assumptions. Immediately, we are dealing with lack of evidence. Immediately, we are dealing with you can't say anything that will convince me of this. That's sad. Paleography comes last. Look at the letters last. It's the last thing you ever do when you're trying to tell whether or not something was written at a certain period of time. Once you know where it came from, once you know what it was copied from, once you know where it was kept for the last 500 years. And James White should really ask himself a question too. If he's all, well, why would Benedict or Simonides want to copy an Alexandrian text? They did not. They were Greek Orthodox. They're Byzantine texters. Well, ask yourself the question again. Why did the priest bring out apparently Sinaiticus or parts of Sinaiticus or something? I don't remember what it was. Why would he bring out an Alexandrian text wrapped in a red cloth? Just why? Interesting question, and I'm sure the answer is even more interesting. I told you guys there's a lot of stuff that we didn't cover last time, and I don't know how much of it was really recorded last time anyways. Last time was a total ugh, which is why I'm doing this second take.
And he ultimately admitted that all he trusted in were his senses that compelled people to embrace Tischendorf's Codex. Bradshaw further said that Dr. Simonides always maintained that the Mount Athos Bible, meaning Codex Sinaiticus, written in 1840 for the Emperor of Russia, was not meant to deceive anyone, that it was Professor Tischendorf's ignorance and inexperience which rendered him so easily deceived where no deception was intended. Mount Athos was the location where Simonides claimed he had created the Codex. He provided many details for how the manuscript had been written and how it came to be at Mount Sinai. He also provided many names of those in the Greek world who he said could confirm that he created the manuscript. But strangely, most of these details were never investigated, either by the supporters of Tischendorf or by the newspapers of the time. In 1920, he said to have been set by the mere opinions of Tregellus or Bradshaw, who examined the Codex 2 months before Simonides had made his claim to it as his work, so that they had no reason to examine it with suspicion.
That's important.
But could there have been some other motive that drove the critical scholars at this time?
Yes. Could there have been another motive? That's where the status quo people just totally tune you out. And they go, nope, 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 nope. Could there be? Okay, yeah. That's not how we do history. That's not how we do science. You and your suspicious King James only conspiracy nutjobness. Yeah, but then again, we've also watched the whole documentary. Oh, yeah. And then we've also looked into a lot of things that you've been a little bit busy and you haven't looked into. And you're completely writing off an entire group of people as wacky, wild-eyed conspiracy because of what? I want to know because I'd rather not invest all this crazy time in this crazy channel and have it be for nothing. If there's a reason why I should just be like, oh, everything that says anything related to anything like this is automatically just write it off, forget about it, just ignore that. We should concentrate on debating modernist scholars and just like this kind of stuff. We should just focus on that. Forget about all this crazy stuff. It's like, well, maybe the crazy stuff explains some crazy things that we just kind of gloss over because, oh, well, this doesn't fit the narrative, so we're just going to forget about it. Like the missing 411, for instance. People forget about it a lot. They just don't listen to it. They just, oh, well, this stuff doesn't happen. And then it happens, and they're like, oh, wow, that was crazy. Well, I'll just kind of go on along about my life, and then you forget about it. You put it all together, and it's just like, wow, some of the crazy stuff could explain the crazy happenings that we're seeing. Maybe Simonides and everybody and the King James only people or whatever. Maybe they're all crazy. Maybe I'm crazy. But maybe it's trying to explain an area of history that, and it's sad if this is the case, that has not, that it has been left a mystery, that has been left incomplete, that is mysterious still, when it should not be. I don't know. I don't know. Anyways, let's get back to the audio.
Simonides was a real threat to the academic establishment of Western Europe.
Yes.
If what he claimed was true, it would have shown that Tregellus, Bradshaw, Hort, and Tischendorf knew little or nothing about dating ancient texts.
Yes.
So you can imagine how hard they fought to discredit him. Not only that, but Simonides was working at the time with a man named Joseph Mayer, who was the founder of the Mayer Museum in Liverpool. And while there, Mr. Mayer had him come and examine a series of ancient Egyptian scrolls that he had purchased years before. So Mr. Mayer brings Simonides to the museum.
Ancient Egyptian.
And what he uncovered were first century fragments and parchments that shattered some of the claims that were being made by the higher critics.
Papyri.
He found a first century fragment of the Gospel of Matthew that was dated within 15 years of the ascension of Christ. And this proved that Matthew was the first gospel, not Mark, and that it was originally written in Greek, not in Hebrew or Aramaic, as the critics had speculated.
Now, I'm not sure how Mr. Simonides arrived at that conclusion of its age. Perhaps just by looking at it. That would still be kind of like in my mind. I would like to see the chemical testing. I would like to see the absolute stuff. Then let's deal with paleography. But it is fascinating to think that that was found. And then also, I don't know if he mentioned it yet or not, but 1 John 5:7. That'd be incredible. If 1 John 5:7 was found on, it sounds like they're talking about papyri. Not the big dogs like papyri, what is it, 75 and ones like that. Or P66 or whatever. Not those ones. But one that has 1 John 5:7 in it. Wow, that has to be a forgery, right? Has to be, because if 1 John 5:7 is a valid verse, we don't know anything about it, so you can throw out every textual critic that's ever criticized. That's a fascinating thought. What if, well, what if it is valid then, and the King James only nut jobs are right? That's something to think about. And here I am at 12:04 in the morning thinking about it. Alrighty, let's keep going.
Also, he displayed a first century scroll that contained John 5:7, the Johannine comma, disputed verse among higher critics. And this proved that they were wrong.
Not just among higher critics. All textual critics dispute that verse. All of them. For there are three that bear record in heaven, the Father, the Word, and the Holy Spirit. Does that belong in your Bible? Something to think about, something to look into. I did a few months of looking into that topic at one point in time. I'd also highly recommend Michael Maynard's book, A History of the Debate over 1 John 5:7 through 8. That's a pretty good one, and you can get it from avpublications.com digitally, I believe. Michael Maynard.
And that the verse was not invented in later centuries, as they had been saying. And this was on display at Cambridge University and then at the Royal Society in London. And
that's interesting. So if that verse was displayed at the Royal Society, now anybody that knows anything about conspiracy stuff knows some stuff about the Royal Society. Interesting. At least that's, yeah, I think that's what they're saying. And also remember that 1 John 5:7 is not found in the majority text. So when someone tells you, wow, look at those rotten modern versions leaving out 1 John 5:7, well, they have a reason for it. But the thing is the King James and Erasmus included it for some reason that doesn't seem to be a document manuscript to him. It seems like that story is a little bit incredible. At the best, it's incredible. At the worst, it's uncredible. It's a very, 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 very interesting thing. Martin Luther didn't like that verse much either. But the German people had it in their versions. Before Luther came along. Don't include that verse. He died. The German people put it back in their Bible. One of the things that Michael Maynard talks about in that book. I know I'm crazy. Well, spray arm, now that you mention it, you know, I didn't want to say, but anyways, let's keep going.
if you read the accounts, these things were so controversial that some later historians tried to claim that Simonides had sold this scroll of the Gospel of Matthew to Mr. Mayer as some kind of forgery or something. But if you read the newspaper, acknowledged that in fact he had purchased the scroll years before he ever met Constantine Simonides. So there was a lot of propaganda and false accusation that came against Simonides because these discoveries were so threatening to what the critics wanted to believe. In December.
Now, that's something too. They want to believe these things. They want to have the absolute treasure trove of riches to be able to debate people that they disagree with about Christianity. They want to have this scholarly way out of a lot of different problems. And I appreciate a lot of the work that is done on the early text of the New Testament. It's fascinating stuff. It really is. A lot of the debates are phenomenal and necessary. But because a manuscript from the 300s, we don't need Sinaiticus or Vaticanus to be a manuscript from the original Constantine. Which is funny how there's Constantine Tischendorf, Constantine Simonides, and Constantine the Great all involved in this debacle. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. So much fun, guys. So much fun.
Of 1862, the London Review wrote boasted him as a man housed the alike of Grecian professors, German students, and English librarians, and banded them together in a conspiracy to crush him.
That was interesting.
In December of 1862, a publication called the Brighton Observer reported that Professor Tischendorf, having visited the Holy Land, returned to Europe with a voluminous manuscript that he obtained from the library of the monastery of Mount Sinai, the earliest known copy of the Bible. In time, one of the parts fell into the hands of Simonides. Manuscript he had self-executed. He made his Codex had been Tischendorf, and the learned men of Germany refused to recognize the claims of Simonides and continued its publication. Things went on this way. Some persons believing Simonides, some Tischendorf. When suddenly a Greek archimandrite wrote to the English papers from Alexandria, corroborating the statement of Simonides and stating that he remembered seeing Simonides characters on Mount Athos.
And this guy's name is Callinicos. David Daniels talks about him a little bit. I'm not sure how much he gets into him yet because I haven't gotten into the whole list yet. But I am waiting to find out. And I'm pretty sure that we have Nick and Charles left. Those were my my night owls last time. Hopefully we can finish this up before 12:30. I'm going to try to let the documentary speak for itself.
The Greek monk mentioned in the article was a friend of Simonides whose name was Callinicos. Callinicos wrote a series of letters to the English newspapers confirming the stories and announcing him master and pupil of all guile and all wickedness.
Oh, wow.
In one of his letters, published in the Literary Churchman, Callinicos wrote, "I repeat that the manuscript in dispute is the work of the unwearied Simonides and of no other person. A portion of this was secretly removed in 1844.
That's what David
The
Daniels said.
rest, with inconceivable recklessness, he mutilated and tampered with according to his liking in the year 1859, as contained the acrostics of Simonides." What's interesting is Callinicos' mention of how Tischendorf destroyed
Constantine Simonides would have actually written in things that, and that doesn't, now they're gone. And
the markings may explain why some pages.
He shows pictures in the document.
It's remember that to this day, the monks at Mount Sinai deny Tischendorf's story. And his claim that he found the manuscript in a
even James Even though Tischendorf wrote that.
Callinicos claimed that he himself had been at St. Campbell's wrote, "Inasmuch as I saw it in the hands of Tischendorf and recognized the word that the manuscript had been to weaken the appearance of the letters and to give it a more ancient look."
So forge something and prove himself right somehow. And it's like people, he would know that people would be like, "Oh no, you wrote that yourself." Why would you even do that when you know that is going to be people's reaction? It would make no sense to submit this as evidence unless you actually got it and you're just like, "Wow, look at this." The only reason, unless you're trying to do like a double cross where you're like, they're gonna think this, well, I'm gonna do it anyway. There is something to it. Double cross. I don't know.
In response to these accusations, the supporters of Tischendorf insisted that Simon had forged the letters and they Callinicos a full character. Yet in his book, James Farrar tells us that Callinicos was indeed a design.
This is all very, very interesting. Why would Simonides have invented the story? Why? What did he have to gain by taking on the intellects of Europe in a battle he could have known he would lose? Or that at least he wouldn't be able to succeed in his purpose? Why? Why would he make up the story? It makes no sense. What was his motivation? What did he have to gain? A pat on the back?
Yet the letters of Callinicos, an almost prophetic warning about the Codex.
Now,
He
here we
wrote to
go.
the newspapers in 1862 that you will greatly sin in foisting on the world a new manuscript as an old one, and especially a manuscript containing the Holy Scriptures. Injury to the church from the evidently numerous correction. Tish meditating. Today, in 2008, we interviewed Dr.
Part of the Sinaiticus project is material commission to go through the material and write reports, sit around a table and discuss it and publish it all. First of all, the history, the agreed historical account of how it came from St. Campbell's. Role of this project is to produce this history, which hasn't been written as we all agree, well enough. So I hope in 2009, July, we will be able to tell the full story.
Is it true? Is there any truth to the assertion that von Tischendorf found the first manuscript in a ash barrel?
He said in his book that he found it in a basket. But again, I mean, this is one of the many voices that make the whole of the history.
Of this answer when we heard it, we chose to wait until they finished their research before jumping to a conclusion. Yet, incredibly, once the British Library published their website, we found that they omitted most all of the documented history about Codex Sinaiticus. They ignored Tischendorf's own testimony about finding the manuscript in a rubbish basket. Instead, they claimed that the monks brought it to his attention in 1844. And while they said they were going to tell the full story, their website makes no mention of the 4-year controversy with Constantine Simonides. We also spoke with Dr. Scott McKendrick, the head of Western Manuscripts, about the comparison between Sinaiticus and the Codex Vaticanus.
This is interesting.
They're different also in quite one critical way, in that Sinaiticus, or two ways actually, I'd say, two ways. One is that Vaticanus does not have the extent of correction. That's a very critical difference. Sinaiticus is the most corrected manuscript of a Greek manuscript of the scriptures. The second is that Vaticanus now has a very strange appearance. When you look at it as a sort of manuscript expert, although you know that people tell you that it's a 4th century manuscript, it actually looks like a 15th century manuscript. And there's one very simple reason for that, is that almost the entire text has been overwritten by a 15th century scribe. Not only that, he's added in 15th century decoration, titling, and so forth. So it has a very strange appearance.
Now that's interesting because, Chris Pinto doesn't realize how to collate. Do you speak Greek? Do you collate manuscripts? What's your problem? You can't talk to somebody like me. I'm a scholar. I do things like that. James loves to rub people's faces in that. Okay, what about this guy from the British Museum? You want to go talk to him about how ancient Vaticanus is? Would you like to talk to him about how it just kept getting dated earlier and earlier and earlier and earlier, like David Daniels shows in the Big Con of Paleography Part 2? Interesting stuff. I'm not sure about Vaticanus myself. I'm pretty sure, though, that it's only assigned that late age because it gives it more credibility among Protestants that seem to want to know what 4th century manuscripts said for some reason. I don't even know. If I was concerned like they claim to be about what John actually wrote or whatever, how about if we look at the disciples of John and see what they said about the scripture? Ken Johnson says that the verses are there in his students' writings. But Westcott, Hort, people like this completely ignored the patristic stuff. They focus on the Greek manuscripts for some reason. Maybe it's because it's easier to make something like that up and make a discovery of a manuscript than it is to make a discovery of a writing by a church father that they didn't make, and it's more easy to confirm whether or not they actually made that writing. Whereas a Greek Bible, everybody was making them. And I would also want to know what the ancient translations had in them. What did they say? I would think that would be highly interesting to somebody who is actually genuinely concerned about what John originally wrote. At least half as interesting as what John supposedly wrote in the Apocrypha, which can be confirmed he did not write through history, not just looking at manuscripts. Anyways, and I can't play the part of the Beauty of Books, I believe it's called, the documentary made by the British Library. So I'll probably try to skip over those, but I mean the rest of it, yeah, we'll see what we include. We're going to be.
Is it possible that the reason Codex Vaticanus has a strange and even newer appearance is that it may not be a truly ancient manuscript?
That's a possibility.
The earliest recorded date for Vaticanus is 1475 AD, when it was first entered into the record of the Vatican Library. The manuscript had formerly been rejected by Erasmus and the Reformers.
Interesting, because the claim is that if he would have known about Vaticanus, we would be, we wouldn't have had the Textus Receptus like we know it today. It's like, well, he actually did know about it, and he rejected it because he claimed that it had been corrupted at a certain point in history, which I forget what it was.
Because they believed it was corrupt. Yet somehow, the warnings of the Reformation were completely ignored by Tischendorf and the scholars who supported him. They all embraced Vaticanus without questioning its authenticity or considering that it may have been one of Rome's many historic forgeries.
It made a bunch of
Among
them.
this company of scholars was another prominent academic who also opposed Constantine Simonides. The strange thing about all of these guys, Bradshaw, Scribner, Tregellus, Hort, all of them who supported Codex Vaticanus and who questioned Constantine Simonides. It's understandable that they would question Simonides because he had been accused of forgery. That makes sense, that they would take the time to investigate his claims. But why they did not apply the same standard to the Vatican, when the Vatican has a much longer and much more provable history of forgery and fakery and fraud, why they didn't apply the same standard when they were examining Codex Vaticanus just doesn't make any sense. And in fact, if you study what happened when Tregellus, for example, when he goes to the Vatican Library to examine Codex Vaticanus, the priest there behaved in a very strange manner. And he said, while he was looking at the Codex, there were priests in the room, and they were making noise and so on to try and distract him. And he said that if he spent too much time looking at any one page for too long and studying it, they would come and snatch it away, almost as though they didn't want him to have an opportunity to study it too closely. Among the more startling features of Vaticanus are its many omissions.
In the Gospels alone, it leaves out 237 words, 452 clauses.
Based on the Textus Receptus, I'm assuming. Anyways, at this point, maybe we've exhausted the Sinaiticus material. I'm not positive. Being quarter after 12:30, actually. Being 2 hours and 16 minutes, I think it might be a good spot to cut it off for now. We might revisit the Sinaiticus stuff next week. I think 2¼ hours is more than plenty for anybody. And like I said, if you guys want to watch more of that, you can go to cardcarryingchristians.com/ what is it now? Untold Bible Story is the website. So cardcarryingchristians.com / Untold Bible Story. And you can also check out the documentaries on YouTube. Chris Pinto's Lamp in the Dark, Tares Among the Wheat, and Bridge to Babylon are the 3 different ones on the Bible translation issue. So yeah. And we'll keep thinking about the possible live stream of the audiobooks where I would be reading them personally and forgetting about the constant editing that I would have to do, and forgetting about the AI technology to read it for me, because that stuff just does not cooperate. I would like to get this stuff out quickly. And it seems like the only answer is for me to actually read it for myself. We shall see. If you guys have any questions, comments, things I didn't cover, please email me, bibleversionconspiracy@gmail.com. Or you can leave a comment on this specific video where you might have a question pop into all the comments, and I respond as often as I can. I appreciate your listening ears this evening. I appreciate the time and dedication that you guys take to listen to me sitting here in my lonely little office, my one lonely little light shining down on my lonely little desk with my lonely little laptop on it and my lonely little microphone. You guys are making it a lot less lonely. I appreciate the 3 of you that have stuck it out to almost 2 hours and 20 minutes. You guys deserve all of the gold stars. Oh, let's see. If I had the money for it, and I might be able to find the money for it at some point. I would definitely like to get you guys something just to show you my appreciation. So, you know. We'll figure that out. I appreciate it, guys. And we'll probably have to go with this more audio kind of format, podcast kind of format, because yeah, the video, just my computer, my internet, my system hates the video for some reason. I will try to record those on my phone and my camera from now on, but I think live streams are going to have to be in this videoless podcast type of format. Boom. Spray arms, little knuckles there. That's so cool that I can show people's comments. And Nick is watching from Australia, mate. And Albert. There we go. And Chip. Yep. It's been nice, guys. Again, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. If you guys have anything that you want me to look at or read, or anything that you guys think that you want to tell me, or anything else, you can message me through Facebook. You can join our groups, Bible Version Conspiracy, or Friends of Gail Riplinger. Or you can you know, contact me through the email address. That's another way of doing it. So anyways, yeah. I think that's about all the juice I've got for tonight, guys. Really looking forward to what the future holds. I'm starting to get into the VRA stuff, which I need to up my YouTube skills in the world, I guess, to be able to get the freedom to do this. That would be an interesting. Let's see. Rods laid down to get the cattle fertile. That would be an interesting discussion. And the mandrakes, yes, those would be there is actually science behind that stuff with the mandrakes thing. There is science behind that. So, yes, that would be an interesting discussion. I think that Joey Foster's done some research on that stuff. As I always say, I don't agree with him on everything, but he's got some good stuff. So, anywho. We'll see about that at some point. We will see. All right. I think I'm going to sign off, let you characters get to bed. Again, I appreciate earning your listening ears tonight. It's amazing to me that I even have people that want to listen to this stuff. Weekly basis, late night stuff. You guys are amazing. Let me see what I can do for another live stream for book reading. Call it something like Joseph Reads or BVC Reads or something like that. Conspiracy Theorist Reads. I don't know. If you guys have any name suggestions, shoot them my way. And yeah, again, check out the links in the description. You can add your personalized message to Gail Riplinger in the one link. You can do whatever you want. And I'm not going to keep talking until nobody's listening. So have a great night, guys. I appreciate it. See you next week. Same bad time, same bad old rotten YouTube. We will see you then. Have a good night. God bless.